Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome. Too much skunk on the vocal cords. Welcome, 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 welcome. Just clickety-clacking. Clickety-clacking. Hope everyone's doing well today. Or as well as can be. Good morning, Jason. Good morning, Vaka. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, Postmatic Yamashisha. Hope you're doing well. Anatoly, welcome, welcome. Wait a second. Oh, sock's sitting weird. There we go. Fixed. Okay. What else do we need? Sharing links. We're missing a whole bunch of stuff. Really? Okay. Well, one's fine because it's not open, which is not good. That is very much not good. Anyway, what are you doing? Multiple things at once. Good morning, Shadow. Hope you're doing well. No, it's the wrong link. Right. Okay, I think we have everything sorted. Yes, we do. No, we don't. Why is... like, well, I haven't changed anything since yesterday. Oh, why? There we go. Okay. Right. Thank you, Lord Volpex. Very much appreciated. Okay, I think that should be it. Where we gotta be. Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep. Move that over there. Okay. So we have a bit of a problem, I think. Yes. We recorded Nature of Predators 2-9 yesterday. But the file is gone. The save file. So we need to either find it or re-record it. Fun. Yippee. Really? Oh, this sucks. And 70. Chapter 9. That's not good. We overwrote a file. Memory transcription subject. Tassie by some scientist. And 70. After the conclusion of the feast, Rasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. Boo. Okay, so 8. Open recent. 7. Chapter 7. Yeah, so I'm going to have to re-record Chapter 8. Yippee. Oh, good. That's what I needed. Time, March 16th, 2160. But that's, well, maybe today problem. Yeah. Okay. Not really what I'd call a positive. Not today. Good morning. Good morning, Doc Mirror. Hope you're doing well. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest test of my Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest test of my compare. I'm just testing compression software, and need to read something because I want to fiddle with the processing. Sounds like it's peaking a bit too much. I'm just gonna read the first paragraph and then work on the processes. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapien Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. I wasn't sure. Okay, so this is SCP. Apply. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's span of a few hours, Naltor and I. Don't know where you can hear it. It's a bit flat at some ends. So what we're going to do is, I have no idea. We're going to take the compressor out. We're going to take the equalizer out and the second compressor out. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were... Then we can add a gain. Gain. Amplify. By 3 dB. Okay. I think we'll do that after all the clicks and stuff. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapien Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. Yeah, well, it's good that we found the issue. It sucks that I have to re-record everything. Well, re-record that chapter. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of the conclusion of the feast, no gain. Okay. Raise vocals, right? After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapien Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. That sounds a lot better. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapien Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed. Okay, we need a compressor, which will be the paramedic. Good morning, Anthony. Good morning. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapien Coalition. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the... They're an output gain. Why are we gaining... No? That's weird. That's very weird. Oh, this gain. 0. The administration's official policy. While the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. The conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic... breath control. Okay. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours... There's a breath there. In the... which you can kind of hear. To Earth. In the... not overly... Okay, so it's not registering that as a voice. A breath. In the span of a... It wasn't 30, so let's go with 60. Music, you're gonna have to go away for a second. In the span... Not really doing anything. So what I'm doing is there's a module called breath control, and you can turn it on so that it only shows you when you're breathing, so you can fine tune it to pick up the breathing. And then when you set it to actually process, it'll remove the breath. So, wait, that was 30. This will go 0, 100. But there is a breath in here. In the span... If I turn this off, you can hear a... Where's the volume control? You can hear a breath in here. In the span we needed to bring to Earth. So I'm trying to get rid of that. It's not a major thing, but seeing as I'm just reorganizing my, what do they call it, effects rack, I thought I might try and give it a bit more. But it's not working. To Earth. Bring to Earth. In the span of a few... While the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with... But I think that sounds better. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapien coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. I suppose we can test the breath one there. It's a bigger breath. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled. Yeah, there you go. I think it's one of those effects that either work or don't. Well, the breathing we mostly remove. Excuse me. Oh. So what normally happens is I try to control my breathing enough that I don't breathe a lot, and then by the end of the process, they're quieter. And then if my wife picks it up, she just removes it as well. A soft breath is fine, but a big is not. Boomer juice time. Okay. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy. I think that sounds better. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapien coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. Okay, so that's the new one. We'll save it as new. The corps were left to assist the Sapien. And this is what the old one sounded like. Corps were left to assist the Sapien coalition. So the previous one is a lot more harsh. If that makes sense. A lot more crisp, but crisp in the wrong way. To assist the Sapien coalition. There's a what do you call it? Distortion on the top end in establishing relations with our other nations. So it sounds very strained. And then the old one I used to use, which is that one, corps were left to assist the Sapien coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. Is a lot better. There isn't as much hardness on the sounds, not the S coming through, the distortion on the S. To assist the Sapien coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. The corps were left to assist. And then the one we just did. Corps were left to assist the Sapien coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. It's very similar to the old one. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. Except the new one does noise reduction, denoise, declick. We don't need that. The old one, save. Yep. 0. Reverb, we don't need to reverb. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy. If anything, the old one is. While the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapien coalition in. While the quieter we can, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. On versus corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. Volume is easy to change. We just add an amplify. Amplitude. I'm gonna increase it by 3 dB. Okay. Corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. So there it lifts it up. 3 dB, it's definitely better. Were left to assist the Sapient Coalition. That one's a bit boomy compared to this one. Were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with. Move that one. Oh. Leave the amplify to the end. Corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition. We can actually even push that up to 4 dB. Corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. Yeah, I think that's good. Save. Go to process and listen again. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. I think that works. While the diplomatic corps were left to While the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. In the span of a few hours, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. While the diplomatic While the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. Yeah, I think that's good. After the conclusion, while the diplomats with our other nations. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. But there you can hear the breathing a lot more because it's been amplified. We have there. Where is it? There. So ideally, you want to do as little editing to the audio as possible. Good morning, Joseph. Because the more editing you do, the more robotic it sounds. Diplomatic corps were left to assist. Well, there's not really much I can do about it. The same process is being applied to the whole thing. While the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. Good morning, Rev. Hope you're doing well. While the diplomatic corps were left to assist the Sapient Coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. After the conclusion, in the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on It's because the way the words are sounding makes the process change a little bit. While the diplomatic corps were left to assist the sapient. So, unless I'm going in and editing each word specifically, it's not much I can do about it. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the sapient coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. And then we'll just add that. Give it a listen again. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to see. While the diplomatic... Nah, it's still not working. Annoying, annoying. Okay. Well, we will start recording soon, just tweaking my effects rack just to make it sound a bit better. While the diplomatic corps were left to assist the sapient coalition. 2 and 2, okay. While the diplomatic corps were left to... In the span of a few hours, Naltor and I were briefed on the administration's official policy, while the diplomatic corps were left to assist the sapient coalition in establishing relations with our other nations. Okay, I think we get there. I mean, the breathing sounds are coming through. I'm not too happy about that. But, like I said, that's partly me, and then if my wife picks it up, she'll nuke them. And then we run a bit of background music as well to hide any zero noise sections. So, like here, if I zeroed this noise out, you notice it like 100%. What we needed to bring to Earth. In the span of a few hours, it just sounds wrong. So normally you want to leave some noise in there. Well, that's actually a bad one. Policy. So that there's some ambient noise. Official policy. While the diplomat. Just so the ear has something to hook onto. So we normally just put a little bit of background music in there just to hide any dead spots. After the conclusion of the feast, Nasman's government scrambled preparations for what we needed to bring to Earth. We're also not peaking, which is good. So peaking just means you're maxing out. And then that starts to distort. Okie dokie. Previous. Let me just check the folder. Yeah, that sucks. Okay, so that is 2-9. Well, remember that I'm listening to it raw. You're listening to it processed through OBS and then processed through Twitch or YouTube. So their processing will kind of muddle it up a bit as well. It's like microphones don't pick up what you sound like, because a microphone's a microphone and an ear is an ear. So you try to get the microphone plus all the settings to equal kind of what your voice sounds like. Good morning, Dave. Hope you're doing well. Oh, yeah, yeah. When you're talking, this is the amazing part. So when you're talking to somebody, your brain filters out a whole bunch of stuff. But when you're listening to an audiobook, it doesn't. Because you're accessing different parts of the brain, so you'll notice stuff that you don't normally notice. Like people stumbling over words, because we all do. Or an awkward pause, or a breath, or a cleaning of the throat. And this is all normal in a conversation. But in an audiobook, it stands out. That is true, Joseph. That is true. Okay, so the plan today. Should we choose to accept it, which I am, is to do the human world champions. Yep, definitely. So, due to a mix-up yesterday, I overwrote a file, so we have to re-record Nature of Predators, Chapter 8. But we're also lagging behind on other stuff. So, we'll probably do Chapter 8, Chapter 10, and 3 chapters of The Human and the Dungeon. Excuse me. It's all good, Rev. It's all good. Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, the famous one is you're driving home from work and you blink, or you're driving to work, and you blink and you look around and you go, where the fuck am I? As you realize that somewhere along the line you took the wrong turn, but autopilot. So that'll get us finished on Nature of Predators. That'll get us most of the way on Human and Dungeon. Tomorrow I can pop in on, not stream, just record the something just to make up lost time. And then next week we try to get a week ahead again. Billy Bob is taking up a lot of space on the recording schedule. That too. Somebody cuts their bushes and you're like, I'm lost. Okay. I think we are set. Just need to make a note over here. Notepad. I don't like Windows 11 Notepad. Let me to check when I'm off stream. Okay, I think that'll do. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying them. And they're quite nice stories. I mean, Nature of Predators is still early on. But Human from Dungeons, good, I think. Okay. We turn the music back on. And then we can head into some recording, which is NOP 2-8. So this is going to be confusing because we're going back. to re-record something. But such is life. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series The Nature of Predators. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. If you're new to the web series The Nature of Predators. Book 2. No, let's just do the whole thing. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series The Nature of Predators Book 2. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 8. Memory Transcription Subject, Taylor Trench, Human Colonist. Date, Standardized Human Time, March 16th, 2160. The sunlight from above compounded my headache as I tried to think of what I'd say to Gress. Each step against sandy ground felt as though there was nothing beneath my feet. And the bones holding me upright felt like nothing substantive at all. What I knew was that the Krev had never given us a break before, so this would be a singular occasion if they did demonstrate they care about our lives at all. We didn't deserve the hatred and the callousness they showed us. I could feel the warm breath dampening the cloth near my lips, the mask hiding my scattered-up features. The mask hiding my scratched-up features. I found my mind wandering during the punishing walk, thinking about how much of the opulence we'd enjoyed on Earth was gone. Thinking about how much of the opulence we'd enjoyed on Earth was gone forever. Mayor Hathaway called me out for the old Earth songs that we came up with, but they weren't to be... But there weren't exactly record labels or studios here to create new anything. Not movies, not TV, not books, not paintings, not music. There were perhaps 3 or 4 musicians that played on the street as a hobby, but there were no full-time entertainers. Everyone needed to directly contribute to the city. The biggest events of the years were the school plays, which turned out thousands of live entertainment. Which turned out thousands for the live entertainment. I still remember the auditioning play. I still remembered auditioning to play Hamlet and winding up as King Claudius instead. Half a millennium and hundreds of stars away, the Bard's work survives. It's funny, because I used to wonder why they taught us the arts at all. Miss Quisp was right when she said when we stopped Miss Quisp was right when we stopped creating. Miss Quisp was right when she said when we stopped creating, we'd stop being human. Have we stopped being human without our expression? I remembered what the subjects taught us at school, where we'd made a few crude instruments that children could tinker with. There's some semblance of our heritage. My fingers twitched in real time, recalling the fluid movements I'd learned against the piano. Sometimes I found myself walking down there to play a mournful piece. Those were bygone days, though, and it wouldn't demonstrate my loyalty to the colony. I didn't apply to be a teacher, after all, and we all had our roles. There were other things with more substance, because of small population. Because of our small population, it was agreed that the next generation needed to share a language, which after much debate was set as English. Secondary languages were optionally available under AI instruction for cultural preservation. You remember Cassin? You remember Crescento, Cherise? I croaked, struggling to place one foot in front of the other. He refused to take a job, wrote stories, sent them round on holopads. I liked his one story, where he found a way to make ourselves invisible. Mayor threatened to kick him out if he didn't work. Then, he was too tired to write. Dried up, just like we all dry up. The security guard escorting me jostled my elbow. You're delirious, Tyler. Maybe we should turn back. Maybe we should turn back. Feck off with that crap. We already made it this far. I've just been thinking about how little career diversity there is here. Because of the Krev. Because of the Krev. We all have to work towards equality.
There's only a few thousand of us. We don't have influencers or professional athletes anymore.
Imagine spending your life playing a game. Wouldn't fulfill me, but sounds a lot of fun. Sounds a lot more fun than our life. Us adults should have a pickup game of. Sounds a lot. Sounds a lot more fun than our life. Us adults should have a pickup soccer game in the streets for old times, like the kids do. Like the kids do.
I thought we finally agreed to call it football.
And to use the metric system. We stopped calling it soccer, and American culture is dead forever, I guess.
Charisse failed to react in time as my legs gave out, and I face-palmed into the dirt. My head nearly collided with the cane. Somewhere along the way, my grip on the walking aid had loosened so much that it was ineffectual. I cursed my weakness, getting wrapped up in old memories during a pivotal time. I cursed my weakness, getting wrapped up in old memories during a pivotal time. Sand would be smeared all over my outfit when we reached the landing pad. The security guard placed her hand on my back, while using the other arm to slowly lift me up. I struggled to all fours and limped onward while keeled over.
Are you all right, Taylor? You can't mean.
No, you are right. Taylor, you can't meet Crest like this. We shouldn't have let you go in the first place, Charisse shouted. My eyes rolled back in my head as I saw the landing pad in reach.
I can hear his ship. Walking is the hard part. I can talk just fine. Maybe if he sees me like this, it puts it into perspective. Assuming good old Crest gives us rat's ass about me.
I'm not convinced they feel anything towards us. Remember how that Krev tried to take advantage of us last time we came to bargain?
I know we didn't have any negotiating power. We have no choice but to hope that they feel something. For once, we could use the fucking help. I think you'll hear it in my voice how awful the accident was. How terrible I feel about letting our obligations to our landlords I think you'll hear it in my voice how awful that accident was. How terrible I feel about letting our obligations to our landlords exceed worker safety. Partially for personal gain. I'm a dick, really. This is my fault. Whatever you say, and I'm going to fix it.
The guard touched her ear with a frown. Mayor Hathaway is saying that you need to pull yourself together, that you can't be moping around out of guilt right now. He also says that if you collapse again, I'm taking you back, and he's coming up here himself, already suiting up.
Brandon's the one who said he needed me, so let me do what's necessary. I'm not a fucking quitter. Get me to the pad and I'll do my job. I know my orders. You were seriously injured and other people were killed. I have all my limbs, and you think that I can make them work for... I have all my limbs, and if you think that I can make them work for 10 minutes... I have all my limbs, and you think I can make them work for 10 minutes. Give me a break.
We need to talk after this. I've never seen you like this in years, Taylor. I'm worried about your stability, and I don't think that you should be anywhere near the Krev. We take you to the landing pad, and you're sitting down and saying a few lines.
Don't you dare undermine me in front of Crest, Charisse. Your job is to protect me, then hold a fucking gun, not to schmooze these bastards like the Sunbremer. Your job is to protect me and hold a fucking gun, not to schmooze these bastards like you're suddenly a diplomat.
You know what, you are being a total arsehole. You know what? You are being a total arsehole. I'll let this slide because you're hurting and not right upstairs, but you're not going to take it out of me again. Be clear, crystal. I managed to shuffle the last few steps to the landing pad before setting my backside down on a crate with relief. My head definitely was causing some issues in my basic functions, but I could think clearly enough to know what I needed to tell Gress. In a world where the Krev would empathize and have any pity on a predator's culture, I'd spit back everything I'd been ruminating on in my own mind about the lost arts and our show. About the lost arts and our shell of a life. That was the one thing that we could never tell aliens with side-facing eyes. We remembered how the prey life forms had reacted to what we were before. There wasn't much that I knew about the Krev consortium, other than we had some vague notion that it was a collection of the Krev and 5 other species, conveniently all prey. Why are they the only ones so unlucky to have eyes in this position? Why did it have to matter so much? That the entire Federation couldn't bear to look at us. These masks are hiding that we are monsters, repugnant monsters to everyone up in the stars. Good morning, Piano Gallery. Hope you're doing well. I thought back to the wounded human faces in the infirmary, bearing wounds, hiding all the tumultuous emotions that coursed through my own blood. Some of the binocular eyes that I knew from our small settlement were closed forever because of the accident, and I couldn't forget that. I couldn't unsee the mental images, even the ones that I hadn't laid eyes on myself. Friends and colleagues, the last of our near-extinct species, the last hope for the Homo sapien lineage to continue. All we built turned to dust eventually, no matter how we struggled. I sped along our society crumbling, and ruined our final chance at staving off extinction. Nobody could tell me otherwise. Nobody could convince me that I didn't deserve the wounds I was bearing right now. I had to convince Gress, and I'd do it by any means necessary. We couldn't get evicted from our home by aliens again. The Krev vessel touched down. The Krev vessel touched down, as I'd watched it do many times before. The Krev vessel touched down, as I'd watched it do so many times before, with graceful engines that were left running for our rent collector's quick getaway. The green-scaled mammal marched down the landing ramp like he owned the entire world, which, as far as his kind were concerned, he did. I curled my lips beneath my mask at the sight of his lashing tail. I wanted to wring my hands around his neck and make him pay for all the guilt that was eating me up. Instead, I just watched as he spotted us and stalked over to our position with disdain. Do you not know I was coming? Why are the supply crates not waiting again after you are all quite tardy? After you're all quite tardy. After you are all quite tardy, Krev spat. I inhaled sharply. Hello, Gress. I'd stand up to greet you, but I'm afraid I'm not quite well. I've been advised by our medical staff not to be here, actually. Yet I thought that it was too important for me not to try and smooth things over with you, not to show up.
You do not look well. You look as though that you can hardly sit up, Taylor. If I didn't recognize your voice, I wouldn't know it was you. I'll understand if you were quite required. I'll understand if you were to require a different representative for the handoff, and I hope that your medical issues will clear up. That doesn't change my demands for the supplies. I threw my hands up in the air, looking defeated. I'll level with you, but please, let me explain before you say anything. The supplies aren't coming. I was overseeing our mining operation to ensure that everything was on the schedule. I was overseeing our mining operations to ensure that everything was on schedule and we generated what you needed. We pushed ourselves too far. There was an accident. I sustained a head injury when I was nearly buried alive. Others died. We can't get you your ore, not for a long time, with our drill in tatters and our workforce eviscerated. I have no choice but to plead for mercy. I see.
There was a brief hint of something in his eyes, which resembled sympathy. It was never the Krebs' wishes for any lives to be lost. I'm sorry for what happened to you. By the sounds of what I'm hearing come from your mouth, you wish for us to let you stay for free, because of your misfortune. This is after we haven't wanted you on our world for a long time.
I know that. But the accident happened. It was out of our control, or we would have given you everything. We need any mercy, no matter how granular. It doesn't have to be free. We could do something else, anything else, as long as we can fit it our laborer. As long else. We could do something We could do something else, anything else, as long as we can fit it or labor on it below ground. We just need time to repair the drill, and we can resume regular payments. We could renegotiate, so it could be beneficial over the long run.
The long run? Then how does that suit our purposes at all, when what we want is your departure in motion? These payments haven't been cutting the trouble you humans are for a long time. You are intruders in our space, and you always have been.
I know you feel that way, but please, if you truly feel sympathy for the tragedy we've incurred, something that we have no way of fixing, give us some reprieve, or at least some proposal to work with us. Don't throw grieving families out, some with children, from the only homes they've ever known, before one thing went wrong with our deal in 20 years. You might think that we're trouble, and think these masks make us untrustworthy because of our cultural differences. But we've always met our pact with you. But we've always met our pact before now. We're just trying to make a living, a life. I know we failed you, Cress, and I'm asking for mercy anyway.
The crab paced for several seconds, at least making a show of seeming conflicted. Teresa's body language relaxed slightly, reflecting some hope that my plea might have gotten through to the snippy Grass. I wasn't going to set any unrealistic expectations, since our overlords hadn't even shown us emotional consideration before. The most we'd gotten from them was being taken advantage of when we had no choice but to land on this colony. Oh, wonder, they let us land. I guess we were supposed to kiss their asses and sing their praises forever. Let me level with you, Taylor. I'm sorry about what happened with your people, but I have orders to see that you're removed within the year, or I'm fired, which would be fine by me, frankly, since I've never wanted this posting. But I was given it because they trusted me to put an end to the saga. Gress sighed. I'm not the type to kick people when they're down, no matter what's happening between us. So I have a proposal. Take me to the site of this accident to see it with my own eyes, and I'll request for the consortium to give you a bit more time.
I stiffened with disbelief. What? You want us to take you into our city?
I do. What I'll accept as payment is some hint of transparency. I'll give you the alternative to take off your mask here and now and look me in the eyes and think. And you think we haven't figured out that it's not an importance to your culture at all? And how they treated your wounds with that shit covering your skull?
You don't know what you're talking about. Obviously, there's special circumstances. But we don't show our faces. It should be a disgrace.
If that's true, then what's the issue with taking me through to your settlement? If that is true, then what's the issue with taking me through your settlement to the mines? I want to know something real about you people, to see how you live and to see what happened, so I can make my own judgment on whether you deserve mercy. Take me to the accident, or I'll carry out my government's will. Your choice.
Therese tightened her fingers on her rifle. That's not possible, Grace. We don't like outsiders seeing our private lives.
Then I have no reason to help you people. You have—
Wait, I interjected. Maybe we can, arrange something. We probably could show you some pictures of the site.
You and I both know that photographs can be doctored to show whatever you like. Seeing it confirms your story beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Okay, then, maybe you can give us some time to bring out some bags so that we, can cover your vision on the way and clear out any workers. We can walk you down to the mine.
Why do you need to clear out any workers? Because you don't actually wear those goofy outfits down in your cities, and you just hide yourself from us. Take me straight down there, like any normal society. Oh, don't bother.
I can't, Gress. My people will never give permission for that. I'd be considered a traitor to all humanity. Please, Give us some option that doesn't violate our privacy and the very spirit of our traditions.
I'm done giving you anything. You've hidden yourselves enough to show that you don't trust or respect us at all. This right here is why we can't fecking stand you, and why I'm not sticking my neck out for you. You have 1 week to get off our planet, or we will remove you by force. You got that?
No, wait. You can't do that. Please, give us a week to meet and discuss how we'll handle our departure. We need time to plan it. We just suffered a... We just... Cheers, Dave. Hopefully you have a uneventful walking. To planet. We just suffered a catastrophe. We've just suffered a catastrophe. We've been here for years. The Crab snorted.
I gave you a chance. You spit in our faces like you always do. Behind those two-faced words and love you. Behind those two-faced words you love to throw at us. Goodbye, Taylor. I can't say I'll miss you.
Gress turned around, back towards his ship, with an arrogant swagger in his step. Charisse gasped in horror, at a loss for words. The mayor seemed to be passing something along into her earpiece, though I couldn't imagine what he could have said that I didn't. Those heartless aliens hadn't spared us at all. After we laid our hearts bare to them, Caber's face flashed through my mind, panicking as he tried to shut down the drawl. An intelligent, dedicated young man who was dead because I put the greedy Xeno's interests ahead of human life. Yep. As long as it's amusing, I'll consider it a good thing. I could still feel my nose being pressed into the dirt, as I thought... I could still feel my nose being pressed into the dirt, as I thought I'd suffocated alive. I could remember my final thoughts of regret and the horror when I awakened to find that we'd had no chance. My head was swimming, even now, from the aftermath of those wounds, leaving me in a sorry state that didn't move. Leaving me in a sorry state that didn't move Gress at all. Would that Krev have cared if I died? If hundreds of humans died? My fingers tightened around the cane in rage, before, with a sudden rush of adrenaline, I found myself stomping after the rent collecting on the Zerrin. My fingers tightened around the cane in rage, before, with a sudden rush of adrenaline, I found myself stomping after the rent collector on steady feet. I swung the walking aid back, and before Charisse could react, I clobbered it against the back of his skull. The Krev emitted a startled shriek, which cut off as he crumpled into an unconscious ball. Steaming with white-hot, blinding fury, I brought the cane back for another swing. Charisse's arms dragged me away with desperation. I could barely hear her pleas for me to stop. All I could see was Caber's face. In the last moments I saw him alive, and that suffocating sensation I couldn't clear from my mind. Security guard Benson finally got a handle on me, wrestling me to the ground. My burst of strength fizzled in an instant as I laid on my side, immobile. "What the feck did you do?" Hathaway's screaming it, and I'm fecking agree with him, Charisse shouted. "We can't go to war with them, Taylor. You know that. What you just did. You know that. What you just did could really get us all killed. You know that. What you just did could really get all of us killed." I blinked, shameful tears welling up in my eyes. "Beck, Gress is out cold. He's not waking up anytime soon." That's unfortunately going to be quite a lot of work Joseph. I mean, maybe at some point. Because I removed the audio mistakes, the only place they exist are in the streams.
And now we can't let him go. We all have to find a way to fix this. Hathaway, send medics. We need someone to carry Gress while he's still out. Down to a private infirmary. Bring someone to help Taylor get back too. We should never let him out. We should have never let him out like this. I sucked in several dazed breaths, processing the gravity of what I'd just done, assaulting Gress. Charisse was correct that we couldn't have the Krev return to his home and tell these people what though. And tell these people that we physically attacked him. That could mean war between our people. The only thing I could think of was that we needed to hurry up and leave before a search party came looking for the rent collector. Maybe it was still possible to get some information out of Gress and persuade him to call off the dogs. As I waited for the medics to arrive, I desperately racked my brain for a possible way to connect. I desperately racked my brain for any possible way to correct my colossal mistake. This had only worsened the prior burden of guilt over how I'd ruined humanity's chances on Tellus. End of story. Many much people today. Welcome, welcome, greetings, hello, hello. Happy Friday. And all of that stuff. Okay, so we're doing 0. Well, on my little listy, oh, they're 18. For some reason, my interface is 24. But 18's still good. 18's great. 18 is phenomenal. Alrighty. We're going to do NOP 2-10. Greetings, ladies and melogents, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series The Nature of Predators Book 2. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Memory transcription subject, Tassie Bison. Chapter 10. Memory transcription subject, Tassie Bison, scientist. Date standardized human time, March 17th, 2160. I have no idea what that is. I'm not going to say all cheese is good, because I know there are some cheeses that aren't good. Like that goat cheese with extra bits, shall we call it. I have to try that sometime.
Fair enough, Peanut, fair enough. Well, I don't know. I don't even know if it's available in this country. The spaceport appeared to be in the middle of several sprawling complexes, many of which were abandoned. Many of which were abandoned with many of which were adorned with starkly different vegetation and were manned by guards of unique species. I took a moment to soak in as many of the beings as I could, recognizing that these were sapient coalition members. The decor on their embassies must be representative of their home world. What Naltor and I were gazing at was snapshots of hundreds of worlds. Embassy Row was situated in the center of the city, replacing buildings that had stood there before. Further out from the unyielding street and the surrounding diplomatic structures was a city with numerous humans bustling about. How complex and unique each of them must be, every single one with a story to tell like Dustin. These aliens were just going about their lives, paying little mind to how many or full surrounded them. If this many sapient species had set up shop in Lisman, I'd spend every day touring embassies and talking with the staff, learning the nuances of their homes and cultures. They wouldn't be able to get rid of me. With us landing in the diplomatic berth, I might have the opportunity to start making the rounds on Earth. This was my opportunity to discover as much information as possible and to plan for our official introduction. This is the first time many of the galaxy will see a bison, so it's important to put a friendly flipper forward. I can see cameras waiting outside the docking port, though they're being kept back a ways. Nalto, friendly talk only, I'll handle this. I scampered towards the exit as soon as the clamps fastened to the ship's underside, and tried to calm my nerves. What if I said the wrong thing, compared to how Dustin had played the bison crowds like a flipper pad? The doors swung open, with Nulia aiding my escape, and I found myself blurting out the first thing on my mind. Hi, humans, your planet is lovely. We're delighted to be here and to see everything you have to offer. We can learn so much from you with your commitment to such a beautiful cause. So it is nice to meet you, and I can't wait for the opportunity to meet every species. Naltor trudged out after me, looking uneasy at the crowd of aliens behind the barricades. How do you do? How many people are watching this? Across all platforms and all planets, 20 billion, the human reporter answered. By Haris, that is way too many eyes on us. I am not sure we're prepared to make the statement. I raised my beak, feigning confidence. It seems that we have 20 billion friends out there already. That warms my heart to know despite all of the aliens you've discovered, you'll show the same interest in us that I feel about you. I've heard First Contact is new to Sapient Coalition, and obviously this is my first skid across the ice too. We're similar in a lot of ways, but I'm related to figure out where we're different as well. Whatever happens, I promise that Bisons will work towards a place of our subject. Whatever happens, I promise that Bisons will work towards a place for ourselves in the galaxy. Whatever happens, I promise that Bisons will work towards a place for ourselves in the galaxy. Iliska trotted out with the twitching whiskers. The Bisons will prepare the full statement for the official. The Bisons will prepare the full statement for the official SE meeting. But we knew you wanted to film this moment. It is obviously massive news for them. So we ask for some space and courtesy as they're introduced to the vast. The Bisons will prepare their full statement for the official SE meeting. But we knew you wanted to film this moment. It's obviously massive news for them. So we ask for some space and courtesy So we ask for some space and courtesy as they're introduced to the vast many things. Yes, it's been quite the whirlwind, I imagine, Dustin chuckled. There's plenty of people on Earth who know exactly how they feel. At the least, I hope we can be more welcoming and charitable than the Federation.
From that I know, that sounds like a low bar.
From what I know, that sounds like a low bar to clear, Naltor grumbled.
I quite agree, but perhaps let's not discuss this further here. Come along, we'll see. Come along, we have to get scanned before the tour. It's part of the tour agreement.
Scanned?
I spread my flippers out like a sweeper. I spread my flippers out like a proper wingspan, trying to signal my positive intentions to the cameras. Several of the humans' eyes widened in a strange, patronizing way, which I couldn't interpret through my minimal knowledge of their body language. To dub it as patronizing could be applying to my own filter to them, given how we misinterpret their teeth bearing as a threat display. Perhaps my non-verbal gesture meant something else to them. It might not have been wise to use a buy-some cue for friendliness in open flippers. I rubbed a flipper against my beak, feeling a bit mollified at my lack of judgment. Hopefully, that lapse wouldn't come back to haunt me.
What do you mean by scanned? Naltor hissed. Like a medical scan? I thought you said that you couldn't pass contagions to us.
Dustin raised a placating hand. We can't. I don't know how to say this, but in essence, we're getting our brains scanned. From that data, our people can document how first contact went without us having to film or write down any mission logs.
Back the feck up. You can read minds.
We can interpret the brain's encoding of memories, Naltor. To know what you're thinking right now, or to have any untoward influences on those thoughts, is another matter altogether. Artificial intelligence has come a long way from being able to pick out single images from our mind's eye, but it's a field of study that we've been pursuing for over a century. You can figure out what I'm thinking now, as soon as it's in the past, by looking into my brain. Why would you give yourself the ability to do that? You can
figure out what I'm thinking now, as soon as it's in the past, by looking into my brain. Why would you give yourself the ability to do that?
Naltor, I don't think you have the right to judge them. As unnerving as the prospect is, they have sophisticated technology, I commented, though I was apprehensive about my every thought being easily accessible. It sounds like they're doing it for historical documentation purposes.
That means there is zero privacy. To the very core of our consciousness, there must be things people don't want to wield. To the very core of our consciousness. To the very core of our consciousness. There must be things people don't want the world to know. What right does anyone have to judge you for feelings you have no control over, and to expose your innermost thoughts? Why does nobody have moral qualms about this?
Nulia waggled a claw. Of course we do. The technology raised many ethical controversies and spawned a multitude of laws. However, there were many other concerns that made it worth pursuing. All brain scans of living individuals are completely voluntary, and even post-mortem, we've put rights in place.
It's logical to ask, because we can. It's logical to ask. Just because we can, does that mean we should? Dustin turned to face Naltor, with his lips curving downwards into a grimace. You asked why, General. So let me rattle off a few reasons. Do you know how the Federation wiped anything predatory from a species' history?
In something you might sympathize with more than anyone, that included your natural... In something you might sympathize with more than anyone, that included our natural drive to be in the water, Aliska whispered. They let our homeworld die because we like to swim. Even if you weren't carnivores, they would have hated you for that.
No more. No more. I don't want them to feel like there's anything wrong with them, Hallie. The Federation was sick bastards. My point is that a lot of authentic history was lost, because some alien hotshot decided that Because some alien hotshot decided which parts of a species' culture they would keep up. Because some alien hotshot decided which parts of a species' culture they would keep. Because some alien hotshots decided which part of a species' culture they could keep. Project Chronicle was what we really poured. Project Chronicle was what really poured research into these transcripts, because they were trying to piece together missing information. Because they were trying to piece together missing info. With anyone we have brain data on, we can cobble back information from the past, a biological first-person source, just as we are for your first contact. Just slow down for a minute, please. I can't hear myself think. I felt my eyes water as I tried to process everything I'd just heard. That AI could recreate entire lives from a brain scan, and that the Thafki had been left to die for swimming. How exactly was that predatory at all? There's so much I don't understand about your past. And does understanding history really make it worth violating people's minds? Naltor squawked. Is that single reason good enough for such a personal procedure? Nuria chuckled. If you want to know for certain, we harbor no ill will or evil plans. If you want to know for certain that we harbor no ill will or evil master plans, Naltor, you're welcome to read our transcripts, though I imagine Dustins has a few intrusive thoughts about how adorable you are. Don't call me out like that. I would never say it aloud. It's especially bad for me since I'm obsessed with all kinds of animals, the human grumbled. Scans will be mandatory for us to undergo on a regular basis, due to our importance to the program. If you'd like to contribute, you're welcome to, but nobody will force you. You should receive a transcript. Should you receive a transcript, you'll have full say over what to exclude. With respect, I don't feel comfortable with the entire world knowing my thoughts, seeing through my eyes, I answered. Of course. I'm only offering it if you ever want to document your experiences for posterity. Before Nalta demands more reasons for its existence, I promise there are some major gains to be had from this. Imagine if you get into an accident and you lose your memories, or you have a memory loss disease. These transcripts are a backup. They're a tool into better understanding consciousness and the brain, treating any dysfunction. Remember Slanek, Dr. Tassi? The Federation captured him and tampered with his short-term memory. But there was an old transcript of him, made from brain scan their scientists did to help destroy his mind, Nudia commented. Tech like this could have restored a version from years ago, if the brain functionality was still there. Marcel, my adoptive father, mentioned trying that before he went off the grid. It'd be top secret if they did, I guess. I at least hope that's where they vanished to. Heliska placed her tail in front of Nudia's wrist. It's a nice thought. I like the idea of that. If I died today, there'd be nothing left of me. Maybe even in a way to bring me back. Maybe even a way to bring me back, eventually. This can't be the end. I can't just be gone forever, when there's so many things I wished I did. Are you seriously saying this could be used to bring people back from the dead? Naltor exclaimed. They can't right now, but maybe one day, soon. We are our thoughts, like you said. I know if I could have one more moment with my loved ones, in any capacity I would. My parents both drowned decades ago, trying to swim as far offshore as they could, free from the Federation at last. They didn't bank on how grueling it would become. They didn't bank on how grueling it would be to come back, and they didn't have the proper swimming training. I'd like to think that they died happy, being able to follow their hearts. I wish I could tell them about the things that I've done. Just talk. We all have reasons we're invested in preserving consciousness for ourselves and others. This research can bring great advances for our societies, Dustin finished, noticing that Thafki was growing teary-eyed. It's a way to grasp things that we could never experience for ourselves. What it feels like for a dirtian to fly, something I suspect bisons would be interested in. What it's like to be what it's like to be brain dead, in a coma, or to die. Nobody lives to tell that last one. What it's like to experience schizophrenia, or the actual manifestations of dangerous thinking. Endless uses, endless answers. The Selmore general looked stricken. I'm still discomforted by the idea, but I must confess that some of those uses sound interesting to me. What a valuable interrogation asset it must be as well. And you just gave a reason why the Geneva Conventions, our warfare laws, probably need an update. Let us have our scans done, and we'll move on to a more laid-back tour. Our posse had arrived in a secluded room, which had a metal basket with few wires on the table, an unassuming device, for all the insight its curiosity over. For the insight its cursory overview would uncover. I watched with curious eyes as each member of the first contact team placed it atop their craniums for a few seconds. Given how little hesitation there was, I imagined they'd done it before. Having their thoughts dissected was normal to them. Would that ever be a decision that I would choose? Were my memories valuable enough to sacrifice my privacy so that Bisons could see how our first steps into the stars played out? That was without even addressing my mixed emotions on reinstating my consciousness beyond death or during life. Heliska placed a paw on my shoulder. That was it. Thanks for your patience, and for your tolerance of our different standards of culture. How would you feel about a stroll down Embassy Row? I'm afraid the humans have sidewalks, not side swims. I figured as much. Whether humans love the ocean or not, they don't seem born to swim. You'd be surprised. We even have it as a sport. Maybe we should have sent a swimmer and not a xenobiologist along for the landing party, Dustin exclaimed. Come on, I know Tassie wants to peek at every species out there before we show you to our accommodations. Before we show you to your accommodations. The human pranced out of the spaceport, teeth bared in jovial fashion. I turned my gaze upwards, following him with my own childlike enthusiasm. I could feel the warm rays of an alien sun slapping the tan feathers on my face. As Rutrala, able to endure the most tropical weather, I appreciated that Vienna had more a temperate feel. The air had been crisp and breathable since we landed here, more like the known climate of Tassia nomads' homeland, Alsh. I couldn't help myself comparing every sensation to the world that I knew. Good morning, huge dinosaur. Hope you're doing well. New. What was there to measure my experiences by, except Avrana? Earth was beautiful, but Avrana was the very benchmark that influenced my judgment. Nulia fell in beside me, as Nalta's eyes darted around each embassy. The nearest embassies to the spaceport are the key species, starting with Earth's original three allies, the Venlil, the Zerillians, and the Yodel. They're spread out from there based on the order they opened diplomatic relations. So, somewhat, you can argue it's by importance. Some annexes, you see, are from the outside the SC. Whether it be from the Shield or from the neutral parties. There's over 150 embassies here, so while I'm happy to walk with you by all of them, it would be a lot. We can just walk you through the most essential SC members and get your feet wet, Dustin said. How about we start with the Venlil? I lived with the Venlil family and their world for years, so it's an easy one. Are they going to oppose our entry? Nalta blurted out. Are they a diplomatic threat? The Venlil shouldn't be an issue. What you should know about them is that they're our neighbors, a highly emotional species which sometimes correlates to aggression. The Federation didn't like that and crippled them. Yeah, Tassie, every time you hear the Federation in the past tense, just assume that it'll be something horrible. You get used to it. I cleared my throat. I'm sorry. It's difficult to imagine why they would do that to innocent people, to an entire species. Because they could, Nalto sighed. Because they could, Naltor sighed. Why does any fiend do anything? I can't pretend to speak for the Federation, beyond them blaming a prion disease outbreak. The truth is, we'll never know if it was more complicated than that. Dustin breathed out a flustered sigh, rubbing the back of his neck. My point is that if the Vendor were willing to accept us, when nobody believed that we were anything more than heartless predators, they're actually a safe bet for being allies. They saved our species back then. They have significant sway with the SC, and they've been linked with us for so long. And they've been linked to us for a long time. Just don't find a way to piss them off, or you might regret it. Noted, I replied. Creatures with bushy, curly fur watched from behind the Vendel embassy gates, plodding forwards to observe us with interest. Some of the older ones had crooked legs, compared to much hardier-looking young specimens. Their correlation was primarily shades of grey, with a few exceptions. I was going to part my flippers in the same gesture from earlier, but stopped after recalling the human strange reaction. One of the aliens seemed to notice me, watching them, all awkward and tensed up, and swayed his tail in greeting. At a loss for what to do, I mirrored the motion with a flipper. On the other side of the street are the Zeruleans. If, protector forbid, anything happens to you, they'll be the ones to patch you up. Famous for their compassion and the medical innovations that sprang from their kindness, Nudir explained. Shortly after we discovered Bisoms, the Galactic Institute of Medicine requested all the anatomical data and medical literature that we could find on you. They wouldn't want any lives to be at risk that could have been saved if they studied you in advance. Naltor's eyes were narrowed with skepticism. Those tiny quadrupeds, they'd be the ones stitching me up. You'd be surprised how crafty they are, and their robotic aids fill in where they lack strength. You'd be in good paws, Heliska replied. Dustin hesitated at the embassy ahead, presumably the third from their key species list, the Yodel. Right, let's not make any ruckus as we pass here. If you want a diplomatic threat, the technocracy thinks we never should have contacted you. They're mistrustful of new members to begin with, but with you being an uplift, I imagine they'll oppose your entry into any way possible. I imagine they'll oppose your entry in any way possible. A species that was bullied mercilessly, but had power dumped in their lap during the war, Lydia finished. Now they're a force to be reckoned with, and brimming with paranoia. They also have a habit of spying, so I imagine they can throw around some blackmail to sway votes, if talking doesn't work. The Selmore General raised his flippers in exasperation. Well, they sound like pleasant fellows. Tassie, you want to march up to the gates and say hello? I actually don't see how it could hurt to try and smooth things over. Just because these Yodel have decided to be our enemies doesn't mean that we have to give it back, I commented. They're not your enemies. They think they're doing you a favor, Dustin sighed. I don't imagine they want to exchange pleasantries, Tassie, so I advise you keeping your head down. No need to risk a vitriolic bout making the rounds on the web. I cast a brief glance at the polder, which had green sand rooting down tropical-looking trees at the gate. Further back, there were small tan animals bounding around in the grass, which seemed to have been ferried in from different climates altogether. These four-legged beasts had binocular eyes, something which was possessed by Terrans alone. So that told me that they were not the Yodel. The fact that the technocracy chose to have these animals present in the embassy must hold some meaning, though. The actual sapiens were toting menacing guns, which immediately caused Naltor to stiffen. Several of the digitigrade, such a tongue twister. Yeah. Make simple word. Me speak simple word. Simple word. Several of the digitigrade bipeds scowled at us, folding their reddish ears back. So much for sneaking past without them noticing. Dustin didn't seem to think that they'd take a shot at us, but I don't see how posturing like this might be doing us a favor. Maybe I should have gotten that brain scan, just in case I needed to be brought back from the dead. I'm sorry if we offended you, I managed, causing the Yodel's glowers to deepen. Yo! We're moving on. We won't stand in front of your territory. I hope you have a pleasant day, and that you can forgive whatever we've done to upset you. One of the Yotel's eyes shifted slightly, making it clear that she was looking at Dustin. We're not angry with you, Bison. Humanity's stunt will fail, however, and we have the perfect ammunition. I'm regretful you'll be caught in the crossfire. You never should have been. Perfect ammunition, the human echoed, curious in spite of himself. What do you mean? Ah, so you haven't seen what the Tessia are saying about you. I think you should familiarize yourself with it. The Bisons don't want you there. Stop being a fecking fed, because either way, when the Sapien Coalition sees what the Nomads say, they'll know Bisons are fractured and dangerous. The anti-carnivals will have a field day, as you humans say. Naltor trudged forward with reluctance, a hint of worry in his eyes. What did those shifty fucking Tessia do now? I won't let them ruin things. The Tessia expressed that they want nothing to do with aliens. Their official position is that Xenos can't be trusted. With how you humans decided to swoop in and play Rauchi, I'd say they're right. This is a disunified species that isn't ready and doesn't need your salvation. We'll show you the whole SC that you're not respecting their wishes. We'll play the tapes for Rudy agreements, placing a paw on my back. Let's get moving now. We need to talk in private at the hotel about whatever the Tessia have done. Agreed, Naltor grumbled, cutting the tour short as the Yotel continued to shout at us and insist that we'd never be admitted to the coalition. The landing party hurried us away from the technocracy embassy. The landing party hurried us away from the technocracy embassy. The landing party hurried us away from the technocracy embassy. I cast a glance over my shoulder, wondering what Dustin had meant by the fact that the former uplifts intended us to that the former uplifts intended this opposition as a boon. Why were they so opposed to us getting a fair hearing at the Sapien Coalition and becoming a part of the galaxy? A dream that sounded wonderful to me. Didn't these Yotel know it'd be difficult enough for us, because of those anti-carnivals? With my joyful mood at visiting Earth erased, I walked towards our lodgings with defeated steps. There was so much about various aliens and their past that left me disappointed in my very core. There was so much about the various aliens and their past that left me disappointed to my very core. I just hoped that Bisons hadn't generated a reason for me to be domestically disillusioned as well. With our own reactionary squabbles and infighting. End of chapter. Doop-de-doop. Pew. All right, that's 2 done. What was that and that? Big stretch. And that's 1 boomer juice finished. I will be right back. I give you chair and music. And back. Less music. There we go, less music. Alrighty. Oopsie doopsie. Oopsie doopsie. Which? Clicking all the wrong buttons. Okay. Everything is ready. Let's head back. Gonna do chapter 46 of The Human from a Dungeon. Don't hit the... Yes, remember to save. That's a big one. And don't override. When in doubt, don't override. So basically English lit is what we used to call that. Or English. English. Anyways. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest narration of the web series The Human from a Dungeon. If you are new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 46. Nash Altar, Adventurer Level 9. Orc Lulavan. Back off! I shouted as I landed a kick into Nick's gut. Our training sessions had been getting more intense as Nick became more familiar with swordplay. My strength, speed, and experience are all still superior to his, but now I'm actually counting on them in our sparring matches. The little shit almost landed a lost strike. Thankfully for my pride, he'd let his guard down. Let's take a break, I grumbled as Nick doubled over and wheezed. Yeah, okay, he breathed. Yeah, okay, he breathlessly. Yeah, okay, he breathlessly replied. I snatched the wooden training sword from his grip as I walked past and placed the swords back in their racks. Being a sword fighting instructor doesn't seem to be my calling. Most teachers would be thrilled at the rapid progress of their students, but Nick's progress rubs me the wrong way. I can't even nail down exactly why, which just adds further frustration to the mix. Am I jealous of how easily he learns what I teach him? A little, but not enough to cause these feelings. Do I think it's unfair that he has 10 to lean on? Absolutely. But it is what it is. Plus, that isn't really his fault. Is the speed in which he picks up a foreign concept unnatural and apparent? Yes. But I'm used to working with freaks. Yuk, for instance. The silent jab of my brother brought another smile to my face. We've been here for 3 days, and during that time, Nick and Yuk have been running around doing various things. Nick's been having to work as a translator when Regent Oakmar is busy, and Yuk has been spending a lot of time with his former mentor, presumably researching. But if it were anyone other than Yuk, I'd have my doubts. This has left me to hang out with Renv, who has been awaiting his uncle's return. I glanced at the dwarf who was currently playing with blades of grass that surrounded the training ring. I glanced at the dwarf who was currently playing with blades of grass that surrounded the training ring. He'd been watching our training sessions, mostly so that he could keep me company when Nick had run off. Mostly.
He'd been watching our training session. Mostly so that he could keep me in company when Nick had to run off. I've learned a lot about this part of Bolliser thanks to him. I always got you. I almost got you that time, Nick said, grievously misunderstanding my expression. And? I asked, my smile instantly disappearing. You feel good about that? Nothing feels the grave quicker than almost. If I had been trying to kill you, you would be dead. Maybe, but 10 would have probably interfered if things went that far. Yeah, and I'm sure that comes free of consequence. I rolled my eyes and spat in the grass. You and I both know that better. You and I both know better than that. Nothing is free, and you need to be especially wary of the cost. And you need to be especially wary when the cost is a mystery. Yeah, he sighed. You're right. You're making good progress, I said, adjusting my tone a tad. Actually, you've made the fastest leap in progress that I've ever seen. But winning a race is far more important than running it. So you shouldn't be content with just making progress. Being content leads to being complacent, and complacency is death in most commonly received invitation. And complacency is death's most commonly received invitation. You've almost met your end already, and if you die, you're never going to see Cass again. But my lecture was met with silence as Ren stood up and started walking over to us. Nick's expression was dark, and for a moment I thought I'd gone too far. His jaw was set and his fists were clenched, but after a moment he relaxed a bit. What if? He asked. What if what? I asked. Well, I'm pretty sure that when I died in my world, I came here. What if when I die here, I go back to my world? Our eyes met, and his expression was completely sincere. I stared at him for a moment. I stared at him for a moment, then burst out laughing. His sincerity turned to shock. What? He asked. What's funny? How in the owls does a moron like you manage to wield a blade without slicing your foot off? I laughed. What do you mean? How am I a moron and a dumbass on top of it all? I said as I managed to get my laughter under control. You don't even think. You don't even know that you're actually died in your world, and even if you did, why would dying here bring you back to your world anyway? Why wouldn't it take you to a completely different world instead? I talk about jumping to conclusions. I cut him off with a chuckle. More like leaping in your case. What's funny? Ren asked. Nothing, Rick. Nothing. Good morning, Alpha Noob. Hope you're doing well. Asked. Nothing, Nick answered with an angry tone. Yeah, don't worry about it, I said. So what's today's plan for when Nick goes to work, Renv? Well, my uncle should have gotten back this morning, so I was thinking that we'd go visit him. I'd have liked to have you come along, but yeah, he's busy, I laughed. We'd have to drag him kicking and screaming, since we'd be getting between him and knowledge. He might even put up a real fight. Best to avoid that, then. Best to avoid that, then. What do you think? Should we head out now? Yeah, we might as well. Best get going before the Regent summons Nick. I nodded, and Rem took the lead. He told one of the guards where Nick was going, and we proceeded. Just give me a second, I need to close my door properly. And back. Hail chair, yes. Yes, definitely. It's a good chair. It's like my favorite chair. It's like my only chair. But, you know, that doesn't really affect anything. And we proceeded. To leave the training pit. I'm actually going to miss this training area when we move on. It's a far better site. It's a far sight better than the one we had in Nulia. Hells, it's even better than the one in the Adventurers Guild uses in Kakena. This training pit has multiple open areas where people can spar in different conditions, like sand, gravel, mud, dirt, and even grass. It also has training dummies that have regeneration enchantments, which is something we should look into for Nuluva. Nuluva. Maybe for the wall too. So poor Naomi doesn't have to fix every time you're practiced. So poor Naomi. So poor Naomi doesn't have to fix it every time Yook practices his spells, though she might miss the free meals. So your uncle owns a business you work at. Well, what about your parents? Nick asked. It's more like a conglomeration of businesses, but yeah, my ma and pop both were like working with the hands, so they own and operate a branch in the manufacturing side of the company. Since I like to travel, I work with my uncle more than I work with them, Renf chuckled. They're much more tolerant of my occupation than they are about my brother's, though, that's for sure. What does your brother do? He's a quack, or at least that's what people call him. He experiments with various chemicals and their effects on health, then tries to hawk the finished product, the dwarf sighed. He doesn't trust healing magic or potions, but they're much faster than any of the products he's been able to produce. I'm not entirely sure, Alpha. I have no idea what's happening with the notification system. Produce. Juice. I think it's a good thing not to rely solely on magic, Nick said. Though we should be careful when experimenting with painkillers, because they can have addictive. Because they can be addictive and deadly, Renf asked. Bit of a wisdom from your world, right? Yeah, that already happened here. He made some painkillers out of a plant that people used to get high and convinced a few people to try it. They worked, of course, but his customers got addicted to them. It was a huge mess, and a couple of people died because of it. The court found him guilty of negligence because he didn't go too long. The court found him guilty of negligence because he didn't do a long-term study before selling the product. Yes, so I do try notify people on Twitch and on Twitter. So I don't know whether those help, but every time I go live, I do post on Twitter and Twitch, Discord. The product. And they fined him so heavily that he had to sell his lab. Now he works out of his house. I'm sorry, that must have been rough on your family. It was rougher on him than on my family. It's pretty well known that he cuts, It's pretty well known that he's cut his relations with us, so it didn't harm our reputation. Still, it's not fun to see family fall like that. The conversation petered out as we continued our trek. Our path avoided the main square, which is where the dragon had been staying. It's just as well. We didn't need to give Regent Oakmar the chance to pull Nick into something. Finally, we approached a large building that was made of small, well-cut stone bricks. Each brick was engraved with a vine-like pattern, which was filled with what appeared to be silver. Here we are, my uncle's offices, Rem said with a grin. Follow me. Ren pushed open one of the solid wooden doors, which were about twice his height. I expected to hear a creak of the hinges, but the door opened silently and with very little effort. I raised my eyebrows. Whoever installed the dolls had known what they were doing.
Discord is in the description of... I suppose I need to do it on Twitch. But Discord is linked in all my videos. Maybe I should just quickly change it? We can do that quickly. No. Invite people. I can't do it now anyway. But it is listed in my YouTube videos. But I think we can do something here. Oh, I'll have to look at Twitch. See what I can add there.
Installed the dolls. The inside of the building was even more impressive. The floor was hardwood and well polished, and each wall had some form of art on it. Paintings, monster trophies, and even weaponry were well positioned to vie for attention. In the center of the room was an expensive-looking desk, and behind the desk was a female gnome wearing a well-tailored clothing.
That's a good suggestion, Yamashisha. I just don't really do much on Twitch, so I forget about changing settings and stuff.
Hi, Cerna, Rem said. Hi, Cerna, Rem said with a wave. Here's here to see the boss. Go on in, sweetie, Cerna said with a warm smile. He's been worrying about you. He'd be glad to see that you're safe. Thanks. Rem led us right to the desk and through another well-built door. Renf led us to the right of the desk and through another well-built door, which led to a staircase. We marched up the stairs and found another pair of doors. Renf opened the one of our left. Renf opened the one on our left and walked inside. Nick and I glanced at each other and followed. Uncle, welcome back, Renf said, raising his arms in a joyful expression. Renf, my boy, thank the gods. Renf, my boy, thank the gods. It's so good to see you well. A round dwarf stood from his desk and embraced Renf hard enough that I heard bones pop. I heard about the bandit attack and was worried sick. Come now, uncle. Renf returned the embrace as best he could. I'm the one who sent word. You needn't have worried. You forgot to sign the letter then. The large dwarf released his hold on Renf. What happened to your guards? They Renf trailed off and gulped. They didn't make it. Norv, Crackton, and Tell are dead. Oh, gods. I'm sorry, boy. I know you were close. They were good kids. We'll make sure their families are well taken care of. Ren's uncle put his hand on his nephew's shoulder and gave it a squeeze. Then he turned to look at Nick and I. So who are these? He trailed off as he got a good look at Nick. Wait. Oh, yeah, introductions. Uncle, this is Nick Smith and Nash Alter. Nick is a human that you've probably heard about. The one who woke King Yssenrath. Yep, Renf said as he returned to us. Renf said as he turned to us. Nick, Nash, this is my uncle Don. Don, my fax, pleasure to meet you, Don said as he grabbed my hand and shook it. Don's grip was surprisingly strong, and I fought the urge to compete. After a couple of shakes, he turned to Nick and did the same. It is an immense pleasure to meet you both, Don said. A member of the famed Alta family and the mysterious human everyone's been talking about. How did you manage this, Renf? They're the ones who saved me from the bandits, Renf beamed. I brought them here because I thought you would want to meet them and give them a reward. There's another one, Yuk Alta, but he's with Elmira right now. The Eternal? Yeah. He was her student or something, and they're currently catching up or something. Well, it's good to see her getting some company. Don chuckled and turned back to Nick and I. I'd be happy to reward you for your kindness towards my dear nephew. You're adventurers, right? Yes, I answered. Good. Camping out under the stars has its own appeal, of course, but there's nothing like a comfortable bed. Bon walked over to his desk. So these will be invaluable to you. He opened one of his desk drawers and pulled out a piece of paper. He grabbed a pen and began to write. He mumbled to himself for a bit, then gave the paper to Renv. Renv read the paper and nodded. Okay, time for reinforcements. Yep, Puma Juice number 2. Renv read the paper and nodded. You'll need to go to one of our warehouses to pick up the reward, but I think you'll like it. Okay, Renv grinned. Thanks, Uncle. Happy to do it. Come see me again sometime. Renv nodded, and we followed him out of the room. Cerna waved at us as we left the building. Nick and I remained silent while we walked, seemingly ignoring the obvious question. It almost felt like a competition to see who would ask first. After a few moments, I couldn't wrestle my curiosity any longer and broke the silence. So, what's the reward? I asked. I don't know, Renth chuckled. The paper is in order form, but I don't recognize the product code. Damn it, I muttered. Damn it, I muttered under my breath. And we continued following Renth until we came upon a building that wasn't nearly as fancy as Don's office. It didn't look ramshackle, but it was obvious that very little care was spent towards its appearance. Despite its lack of aesthetic, it was very impressive in size. It was very impressive in size. I took in the sights as we followed Renth into the building. Large bay doors led to carts that were in process of being loaded and unloaded. Huge stables kept Humnasses sheltered, fed and watered, and there were many people running around tending to various tasks. Our strange-looking group got a few curious stares, but nobody stopped us. We walked up a flight of stairs, and Renth knocked on the door. We walked up a flight of stairs, and Renth knocked on the one of the doors. We walked up a flight of stairs, and Renth knocked on one of the doors. Come in, a voice shouted from behind the door. Renth opened the door and led us through. This room seemed like the opposite of Don's office. It had no decorations on the walls. The floor was made of cheap wood, and the desk was more like a table. The room was barely lit by a single candelabra. Candelabra. Always get that one. The room was barely lit by a single candelabra.
Candelabra.
Okay. Really loud voice. My ears are ringing. Candelabra. The room was barely lit by a single candelabra in one of the corners. Behind the table, masquerading as a desk, was an elf who was nearly buried in papers. Her disheveled blonde hair glimmered in the candlelight as she peeked over one of the many stacks. Oh, hi, Renth, the elf said as she ran her fingers through her hair in a futile attempt to straighten it. What's up? Hey, Hura, I've got an order form from my uncle. Hey, Hura, I've got an order form from my uncle, Renth said as he gave her the paper. These two saved my life, and that's their reward. Saved your life? She asked with a raised eyebrow as she read the form. Whoa, okay. Guess you're not kidding. Wait here. I'll be right back. Hura stood quickly and practically ran out of the room. Remf looked at us with a grin, but we returned his expression with befuddlement. We stood there, waiting awkwardly, and after what felt like an eternity later, Hura returned with the 3 small boxes. She gave Nick one of the boxes and handed me the other 2. "Here you go," she said.
"Congratulations, Huge. Now, go off to sleep. Gaan, Bo, do, sleep."
"Here you go," she said. Nick opened his box and pulled out a necklace with a metal tag on it. The necklace's chain was made of gold, and the tag was emblazoned with various jewels. It also had writing on it, which caused Nick and I to share a glance. Neither of us could read the script. Neither of us could read the writing.
"Looks fancy," I said. "What is it?"
This is an identifier that will allow you to stay at any of the Marflex inns, absolutely free of charge, Hero explained. Simply show it to the clerk at the front desk, and you'll be given a room, assuming there is one available, of course. This also comes with 1 free meal per day of your stay, and unlimited access to any available amenities.
"That's awesome," Rem said. "Uncle really outdid himself."
"Really?" Nick asked.
"Are these inns fancy?"
"Very fancy, yes," Hero answered. What amenities are available depend on the inn in question, but all of them have very best of whatever is available. Some people even consider our inns to be the vacation spots in their own right."
Where can we find them?"
Where can we find them?" asked.
"Where can we find them?"
I asked. "We have inns located in every capital city on the continent. You simply need to look for a sign with the symbol that's on the back of the necklace to find them." I watched as Nick turned over the necklace. It was a little hard to make out in the candlelight, but the symbol engraved on the back looked like a dragon wearing a nightcap and sleeping comfortably on a bed. Nick and I shared another glance.
"Thank you," I said. "This will definitely be useful in our travels. Now you guys won't have to stay... Now you guys won't have to stay in taverns and stuff," Renf beamed.
"A soft bed sounds good to me," Nick said.
"Is there... A soft bed sounds good to me," Nick said. "Is there one here?"
"Yes, there is. It's right off the main square," Hero explained. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to get back to work. Enjoy." Brent once again took the lead as we exited the office, and then the building. Once we were outside, Nick put on the necklace and tucked the box into a pouch on his hip. I tucked both boxes into my pouch, not bothering to put the necklace on just yet.
"So what now?" Nick asked. "What do you mean? Break's over," I grinned. "Let's get back to training." Nope, and it's the wrong voice. "Let's get..." What do you mean? Break's over," I grinned. "Let's get back to training."
End of story.
Nope.
End of chapter.
Doop, doop, de doop. Yeah, Roller Road's quite responsive today, as usual. It's not a bad website, it's just not the most responsive. Alrighty, on to the next one. Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series The Human from a Dungeon. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 47. Grum Ormyar, Adventurer Level NA, Orc Blurpan. Well, can't say much for their craftsmanship, Harmy said with a grunt. It's not pretty, but it looks like it'll hold up to an extended assault. It's not pretty. It's not pretty, but it looks like it will hold up to an extended assault. I shook my head in disgust. We finished our extermination of the enemy's encampment. We finished our examination of the enemy's encampment and turned back to our own. Harmy and I had decided to personally confirm the scouts' reports. The drow had erected wooden barricades around the village and were keeping them wet to prevent fires. They had made barricades high enough to make it difficult to get attacks over them too. Any mage that got close enough to spend this Any mage that got close enough to send a spell over those walls would also be close enough to suddenly sprout an arrow from between their eyes. What was this village's name? I asked as we walked. Don't know, Harmy shrugged. It isn't on the map because it isn't recognized settlement. It's too close to the border for that. Really? I wouldn't think that they would have had issues with the drow before. The buildings look like they've been there for quite a while. Yeah, well, they probably have been. Lofin's armies usually do their thing quite a ways to the east of here, so these guys were probably left alone for the most part. Maybe got a visit or two from our boys now and then, but they've probably never even seen a drow until now. But they're still close enough to be a settlement prohibition. But they're still close enough to be in the settlement prohibition zone. Do you think they knew that? They would probably had to. They probably would have had to. Whoever they got that land from, a rancher probably, would have had to tell them. Plus, that settlement is large enough to have applied to be a village, and there's no way that they'd miss out on the benefits by choice. If they applied, they would have been told to vacate the area. Damn! If they knew, why'd they risk it? Well, after enough repetitions, things become routine, and routine tricks you into believing that you have an understanding of things. That, combined with how cheap the land would have been, probably led to this. So, what do you think? They're either dead, slaves, or hostages now, Grum. Hell's probably worse if your pa's right about the vampires. Put them from your mind. We've got crap to do. Yeah, I nodded solemnly. We entered the camp we had made yesterday, and a quick look around confirmed that it was bustling with activity. Axes were being sharpened, cooks were stoking fires, and mages were tending to the harnesses. Our forces now totaled 1,000 infantry and 30 mounted mages. The drow may have more soldiers than we do, but if we were to fight them afield, we'd be able to wipe the floor with them. Unfortunately, they seem to have realized that. Chief Orma! Someone shouted. The shout sounded as if it was directed at me, which caused my head to snap towards the sound. One of the newest scouts was running towards me. I ceased my stride and crossed my arms, affixing approaching scout with a glare. I noticed a rare smile on Harmy's face as the scout caught up to us. I am not the chief. My father is, I said firmly. Sorry, sir, the scout said, trying to control her breathing. I've got a report, and I'll hear it in a moment. I want you to be sure that it doesn't happen again. My father is the greatest chief Blurpus has ever seen, and I won't tolerate any semblance of disrespect towards him. Understood? Yes, sir. Good. Report. We found a caravan from Yerna that had supplies to make weapons. It was attacked. Any survivors? We don't know for sure. They burned those that fell, drow and orc alike, loaded them into carts and set them ablaze. Couldn't get an accurate count of the remains. Were you able to get eyes on the force that ambushed them? I asked, uncrossing my arms and placing my hands on my hips. No, sir. They were hit right after they crossed the border into Blurpus. Scoutmaster says that it had to have happened days ago. Scoutmaster says that it must have happened days ago. Scoutmaster says that it had to have happened days ago, according to their according to their itinerary. Understood. Tell the Scoutmaster to get back to regular patrols then.
The scout nodded and began jogging away. I took a deep breath through my nose, stifling my rising anger, and let air out with a heavy sigh. "Burke! Burke!" I grumbled under my breath. "Good call, sending the scouts to check on the caravan," Harmy noted. "It is fortunate that we now know that we can't rely on the archers." "Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Whoever this little bastard is, he's far too clever for my liking," I said. "Not only was he able to tell that we had sent our smithing supplies to Yerna, he was able to determine that we would have them right. He was able to determine that we would be having them shipped back and where they would be. Nah, he probably set up multiple ambushes. That's what I would do. I put a team on any path big enough for a cart." "Yeah, you're probably right," I absent-mindedly agreed, my mind already on what our next steps should be. The caravan didn't just have weapons-making materials. It had actual smiths and fletchers. Smiths that can perform maintenance are copper a dozen, but the ones that can create new works from raw materials are worth their weight in silver. Proper fletchers are even rarer, and it would take quite a while to find one willing to travel to Blurpus. If we'd been able to outfit our archers and train them... If we had been able to outfit our archers and train some new ones, we would have been able to assault the enemy camp. Archers can fire faster than mages can, which may have allowed us to suppress the enemy behind their barricades long enough for the mages to lob spells over their walls. Hell, they might have even been able to get close enough to use spells that would destroy the barricades entirely. Most archers know how to maintain their bows and make arrows in a pinch, but most of them don't know how to craft bows or mass-produce arrows. Their makeshift arrows are also a lot less accurate than those made by professionals. No matter how I look at it, it looks like we're going to have to lay siege to the drow and try to stop them out. "Oh, here we go again," Harmy said, gesturing to another scout jogging towards us. As the orc approached, I noticed that we were mistaken with our initial impression. This orc wasn't a scout. The two axe handles smacking against his thighs as he ran was a dead giveaway of his status as infantry. As he drew closer, I tried to figure out why he would possibly be running to speak with us. "Morning, Chief." "Morning, Chiefkin," the large orc said. "Sunt Blag. Sunt Belag went to... Sunt Belag wanted me to get you." "Sergeant Belag, what for?" I asked. "It's a surprise, sir." "I don't like surprises." I crossed my arms again. "Tell me what he wants." "Sergeant Blog's a lot bigger than you," he chuckled. Sir, plus, we all want to see your reaction." "Belag may be bigger, but the chiefkin can have you flogged," Harmy interjected. The big orc took a moment to think about this, biting his lip as his brain worked harder than it likely ever has. "I guess so, but even if you flog me to death, my mum... I guess so, but even if you flog me to death, my mum would recognize the body," he shrugged. "If I ruin the surprise and the boys get with me, she won't even recognize my big toe, sir." It's that good of a surprise?" I asked incredulously. "Oh, yeah. Your reaction will be worth it, taking a few licks from the whip. If you want me to, sir." I shared a glance with Harvey, who gave a defeated shrug in the face of a country orc's stubbornness. "Fine," I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. "Lead on." The unruly infantry orc led us through the camp and into the woods. Being unused to traveling without a path, I made certain to watch my footing. Despite my care, I quickly fell behind. The other two seemed to be able to predict their routes and divots in the ground, and had to stop and wait for me to catch up repeatedly. By the time we arrived at Sergeant Ballog's location, my embarrassment and frustration were at boiling point. Once the ground was clear of obstacles, I pointedly marched after our guide, ready to be harsh with whatever I was about to be shown. However, all my anger quickly melted away once I saw the surprise. My eyes widened and my jaws dropped. "The fuck?" Harmy asked with a shocked softness. "The fuck?" Harmy asked with a shocked softness.
Ah, Chiefkin. Oh, and you brought Captain Harmy, too, Sergeant Belog exclaimed. Surprise! A mewling whine came from a gigantic creature that had somehow been trussed up. The sound was disturbingly similar to a pupper that had just been told off, but much louder. Its head was covered in metallic-looking spikes, and the creature's red and yellow hide clashed horribly with the various greens of the surrounding foliage. Each of its bound arms and legs ended with 3 enormous claws, which were also tied together. It struggled against its bindings to no avail, and whined again. And whined again. As it did so, I caught a glimpse of rows upon rows of sharpened fangs within its maw. What in the hells is that? I asked, regaining some of my composure. It's a gift from the gods, a Nahalim, to be specific. A young one, too, judging by its size, Belog said with a prideful grin. One of our boys was taking a leak and found it while he was napping. Once he let me know about it, we grabbed all of our rope that we could carry and tied it up good and proper. I took a moment to digest the information. Then okay. Chat has crashed. That sucks. I think. No, it hasn't. Okay. Confused me. Which isn't difficult. I took a moment to digest. This information, then turned to look at the sergeant. He towered over me, but despite his appearance and upbringing and mannerisms, he's one of the most educated orcs I know. When he says a gift from the gods in this context, it can mean literally anything. Okay, so what's a Nahalim, and why is it a gift? I asked. Please don't tell me you're planning on trying to eat the fecking thing, Harmy. Please don't tell me you're trying to eat the fecking thing, Harmy added. Pretty sure those are poisonous. Venomous, not poisonous, and no, they taste like shit. Anyway, to answer your question, Chiefkin, the Nahalim is one of them old biological weapons that they were using during the Cataclysm Wars. They were mostly meant for cracking open castles, but they also saw some use as anti-infantry. You see him now and again on the edges of the wastes, where I grew up. Belog's grin somehow grew. And it's a gift, because you've brought the... And it's a gift, because you've got the balls, you can train it. And it's a gift, because if you've got the balls, you can train it. I nodded along and then froze once he finished the sentence. The fuck did you just say? I asked, unable to believe my ears. Belog's men tried to hide their laughter, unsuccessfully. Train it, sir. There was a guy who lived in the wastes who had a couple of them as pets. Hunted with them and everything. Said they were just like giant puppers, so long as you treat them proper. He nodded sagely. Of course, they ate him in the end, but we're pretty sure that he died of natural causes first. Pretty sure, I repeated. Yep, give me a few days and I'll have this boy, or maybe girl, it's hard to tell. Anyway, I'll have it ready for rearing to tear up some drow in no time. What are you going to feed it? Harmy asked. We got drow prisoners, don't we? Belog raised an eyebrow. Absolutely not, I said. We aren't feeding our prisoners to this thing. Not only would that be morally repugnant, it would also be a violation of the law of the land, and the High Chief would certainly have our heads. Well, what if we kept it secret? You're willing to gamble your life that none of your boys will get too sauced and tell the story. Fat fucking chance, Sergeant. No. Damn. You've got a good point, sir. Well, boys, what do you think? Belog turned to his orcs. Willing to go on half rations to feed the beast? The sounds of not quite suppressed mirth died out immediately, and was replaced with a tense and contemplative silence that was only broken by the occasional whine from the Nahalim. The soldiers looked between their sergeant and the Nahalim studiously. The subject of their internal conflict was painfully obvious. The stomach is one of the two organs that infantry does their thinking with. The other organ they use to think is somewhat up for debate. "Feck it, I'm game," one of the soldiers said. The other soldiers looked at the one that spoke, and a few of them shrugged. One by one, they gave their assent to the sergeant's plan. Once everyone was in agreement, Sergeant Belloc turned back to me. "There you have it, sir. We'll feed it with our own rations, and get it nice and trained up for an assault on the enemy," he said with a smug grin. "Will that be all right?" "If you can train it, will you be able to kill it?" If you can train it, will you be able to kill it?" I asked. "Yes, sir. It bleeds just like everything else. Worst case scenario, we lose a few. But I got a look at the enemy's barricade earlier, and I'm pretty sure that we'll be losing more orcs without the Nehilim than we would with it. Than we would if it went wild." "You might be right. How exactly are you going to train this thing? We don't have cages big enough to hold it." "Oh, we'll secure it in such a way." "No, we'll secure it in such a way that it can't run around and let it get familiar with us. Positive reinforcement and the like goes a long way with these big bastards. By the end of the week, I'll have it eating out of my hand." The sergeant was making a good case. If Belog is able to train the Nahalim, it would save a lot of lives on the other end of this conflict. It would save a lot of lives on our end of this conflict. If he fails, though, we'll have to lost good orcs and still have to face the enemy's barricade. We could try to starve out the enemy, but the leader has fully demonstrated that he isn't a fool, so he probably has a plan for that course of action. I looked at Harmy for guidance, but the furrow in his brow told me that he was just about... But the furrow in his brow told me that he was just about... But the furrow in his brow told me that he was just as lost as I. I took a deep breath through my nose and let it out through my mouth. "Fine," I said. "Train the Nehilim. We'll try and use it as an assault on the enemy fortifications once it's ready." "Thank you, sir. You won't regret this." End of chapter. Okay. Alright, I think that's going to be me for the day. Ooh-wee. Oh. 2.5 hours, 4 chapters, good stuff. I am going to have to record some stuff tomorrow, but that won't be on stream. That'll be off stream. Gotta catch up. So yeah, the wonders of working at 100% as often as you can is, well, you know, if something happens, you fall behind quite badly. But shouldn't be too much of a problem. Anyways, tomorrow I'm off. I'll see you guys on Sunday. Thank you for spending your day with me, or morning with me. It is very much appreciated. I hope you all had a good time, and I will see you in 2 days, and I hope you have a great weekend. Anyways, goodbye.